Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a challenge that I think many of us face, navigating English language job interviews. Our mission for you in this deep dive is really to cut through all the noise, pull out the most crucial insights from our sources, and will equip you with the confidence to really shine, especially when you get that classic, maybe slightly dreaded question, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, and we've really gathered some fantastic source material for this. It's kind of a shortcut really to understanding not just what you should be saying, but maybe more importantly how to approach the whole interview with a more powerful mindset. Think of it like turning those nerves, into actual opportunities to make a great impression.
Okay, right, let's unpack that a bit. Before we even jump into specific questions, our sources really stress that having a solid foundation of key vocabulary is, well, essential. We're talking terms like resume or CV if you're in the UK. And it's not just a document, right? It's your sales pitch, that first impression trying to get you past the recruiter. Then you've got experience, strengths and weaknesses, career goals. These aren't just buzzwords. They're the building blocks for your whole story.
hmm And what's really transformative, I think, based on our reading, is this mindset shift that keeps coming up again and again. The material really pushes you to think of the interview less like a test, less like an interrogation, and more like a genuine conversation. And this is so critical because you're not just spitting back answers you memorized. You're actively showing how you think, your communication style, your personality, really. It's about engaging, connecting.
Right. Building on that exact idea, shifting from test to conversation. Let's look at where that conversation really kicks off. It's usually with that opener, isn't it? Tell me about yourself.
Mm.
Our sources have this really powerful role play example that shows what makes a strong first impression. Can you walk us through that candidate's approach?
Sure. So the candidate in this example, they were a recent business graduate, and they structured their answer quite effectively. They started off mentioning 2 years of internship experience, specifically focusing on marketing campaigns. But crucially, then they linked that. They talked about their passion for communication and data-driven decisions and tied it directly to why they were excited about this specific role.
Okay, so why does that specific answer work so well? What's the secret sauce there, do you think?
Yeah, that's a really important question. It works because it's concise, it's relevant, and it's looking forward. It quickly gives their background without, reading the whole resume out loud. It shows actual practical experience. And maybe most importantly, it connects their own interests and skills directly to what the job needs. They're not just saying what they did, they're showing what they can do for the company in that role. It's about demonstrating that fit right from the get-go.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, so now let's dive into the core of most interviews, really. The top 5 questions you're almost guaranteed to hear. We've pulled out strategic tips for each one, straight from the source material, focusing on what interviewers are actually trying to figure out. First up, why do you want to work here? The research suggests it's about more than just, knowing the company name. Interviewers are looking for real alignment. How do you show that, say, their latest project genuinely excites you because of your own background or interests? It's about connecting their path with your drive, not just listing facts from their website.
Exactly. It needs to feel authentic.
Then, what are your strengths and weaknesses? This one. It's not just about being honest, is it? It's about strategy and self-awareness. Our sources consistently say focus on soft skills like time management, teamwork for strengths, things that are broadly valuable. And for weaknesses, the key isn't pretending you're perfect. It's showing you know yourself and you're working on things.
Definitely don't say I work too hard. That's seen as a bit cliche, right? Maybe something like, I sometimes find myself double-checking my work more than needed, so I'm actively practicing, trusting my initial judgment more, or perhaps I'm focusing on improving my delegation skills to better leverage team strengths. It shows growth.
That's a much better approach. It's concrete and shows initiative.
Okay, then when they ask you to describe a challenge you faced, our sources are really strong on using the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. It's not just a handy acronym. It gives you this clear structure, a narrative that cuts through any vagueness and really shows your problem-solving skills in action. Right. And to just quickly expand on STAR for a second, situation is just, setting this scene briefly. What was the context? Task is what you were supposed to do, your responsibility. Action, this is the core, what did you specifically do? This highlights your skills, your decisions. And result, the outcome, what happened. Ideally, you can quantify it. So instead of just, I fixed it, it's more like, I noticed an inefficiency, proposed a new workflow, implemented it, and it reduced processing time by, so, 15%.
Hmm.
It turns a general statement into a concrete achievement, demonstrates real impact.
Precisely. Much more powerful. Okay, moving on to why should we hire you? Here, the sources say the focus needs to be absolutely on the value you bring to them. It's not about what you want from the job personally. Frame it as, here's how my skills and experience solve your problems or help you reach your goals.
It's about their needs, not yours at this stage.
And finally, that question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? The advice is to be realistic, but also show ambition, ideally within that company. Show you've thought about your career path and how this role fits into that bigger picture for you, hopefully contributing to their organization long term.
Yeah, and if we just connect all these back to the bigger picture, understanding the why behind each question, that lets you tailor your answers so much better. The interviewer isn't just ticking boxes. They're trying to get insight into how you think, what motivates you, and ultimately, if you'll be a good fit. It's about demonstration, not just declaration.
Exactly. Now, beyond the answers themselves, how you speak, the words you choose, that can really impact perception, can it? Our sources give a list of what they call power phrases, things that help you sound professional, fluent. Phrases like, I'm highly motivated and detail-oriented, or I believe my experience aligns well with this position. What makes these phrases powerful?
Well, I think they work because they use strong active language and they directly state desirable qualities or make clear connections. They show you're self-aware and you understand what's needed without sounding, overly generic or boastful. Other good examples include things like, I'm always open to learning and constructive feedback, or I work well both independently and in a team, maybe even. My previous manager often described me as dependable and proactive.
Yeah.
They're like concise, impactful little summaries of your value.
Right. And on the flip side, what about the pitfalls? What are the common mistakes the sources warn us to consciously try and avoid?
Ah, yes, the pitfalls. What's equally important is knowing what not to do. A big one is speaking too fast because you're nervous. It just makes you harder to understand. Then there's the overuse of filler words, the us and ums and likes. A few are natural, but too many can really undermine how confident you sound. Giving really generic answers without specific examples is another trap. It doesn't help you stand out. And critically, a surprisingly common mistake is failing to ask any questions at the end. It can come across as disinterest or lack of preparation. Oh, and also be careful with vague claims like, I'm a perfectionist, unless you can immediately back it up with context and how you manage it productively.
That's a good point. And our sources specifically recommend preparing, say, 1 or 2 smart, insightful questions for them. Think about things like, what does a typical day actually look like in this role? Or maybe, how does the team measure success in this position? These kinds of questions show you're genuinely thinking about the role, your potential contribution, and the bigger picture. It shows engagement.
Absolutely. It turns it back into that two-way conversation we talked about.
So wrapping this up, what does this all really mean for you, the listener? Ultimately, it seems successful English interviews boil down to 2 fundamental things: thorough, smart preparation, and developing a genuinely confident mindset. You don't need absolute perfection in your language. You need clarity, calm, and confidence in how you communicate.
Yeah, the sources really hammer this home. If you rehearse answering these kinds of questions, if you practice saying your answers out loud, maybe even record yourself, and if you genuinely focus on making a connection with the interviewer, you're already way ahead of a lot of the competition. Believe in your value, speak as clearly as you can, and honestly, remember to smile. Your whole demeanor sends a message.
So here's something to think about as we finish. We've talked a lot about embracing that interview as a conversation mindset. How could truly adopting that approach, focusing on genuine engagement rather than just performing, how could that open up new ways for you to show your unique value and your curiosity, even if English isn't your first language? How might that idea completely shift how you prepare, moving beyond just memorizing answers towards, well, true conversational readiness?